is 5 o'clock. I'm going to call the Public Works meeting to order. Start out with the roll call. Alder Bellinger. Here. Alder Peterson. Here. Alder Ramey. Here. Alder Ross. Present. And Alder Decker is present. All 5 present. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Just going to introduce quick staff because we have quite a few guests here. Just staff. I don't think we have to go through every person that's here. I'm sorry. I will just do a quick introduction of staff. We won't do an introduction of all the community members here. So we'll do a just quick introduction. I'm Alderperson Dean Decker. I'm the chair of the committee. I'm from District 6. Oh, I'm sorry.
Zach Russ, District 8.
I'm Dan Peterson, District 3.
Oh, sorry.
John Bellinger, District 2.
Okay. Alrighty.
Angela Ramey, District 5.
Okay. So, still getting used to this, doing it here with everything here, so we apologize. We have staff here. Liz, you want to just quick?
I'm Liz Majerus with the City Attorney's Office.
Joe.
Jordan Smith with wastewater.
Okay.
Kevin John, engineering.
Kendra, you want to just, because you're with me, still staff too. And that's it. Okay. Alrighty. We'll move on to number 5, approval of minutes from February 11th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Those are approved. Alrighty. We'll get to number 6 here. Number 156-2425, a resolution approving an Evergreen Park Trail Assessment and Trail Improvement Concept Plan. Joe, is that going to start out with you again on this, or how do we want to do this? Okay. Get you on the... We got you there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so we're back tonight, so far the presentation looks like it's going to work. It's a big one. The presentation that they do is just fabulous. Can't say enough about it, so I'm looking forward for the committee to see that. But again, we're here tonight, and I have to apologize. I could have got it. I should have put it better communication to get what we wanted in this committee on the agenda. Basically, we're just hoping to look at Evergreen Park, the concept within Evergreen Park, within the borders of Evergreen Park, and hopefully can make that changes tonight, and that's what we're looking at. We're working with a wonderful group, the Sheboygan Cycling Group. We appreciate that they've been out fundraising. They bring in IMBA, International Mountain Biking Association, to develop a plan to inventory trails, to give thoughts on what could be done. And this is how the concept of Evergreen Park was developed. And now we're hoping to move forward to approve that concept tonight, and that's all it means is that, hey, yep, we like what we see, go forward, show it, come back. We'll still need to approve anything that gets done, but we appreciate the concept and we like it and we want to move forward going that route. So again, they have a great presentation, but a lot of questions were asked last week, and I just want to answer a few of those on my own here before they come up here, and they're probably through the presentation going to answer a lot of those things. But funds, funding through the city, the only thing we said that we would do at this point is try to find some grant monies in the next couple of years. So we do not have any funds set aside for this project. Maintenance funds came up. Again, we are reliant on this group for the maintenance, And they've shown that they put the time in, hundreds and hundreds of man hours. They cleared the trails after the storm of June in '22. Again, it would have been $25,000 if we would have hired it out. They did it. They did it without chainsaws. They are out there. They're improving trails as we know it now. There was a person that spoke last committee meeting that, you know, I used to enjoy the trails, but now they're getting out of sorts. And, you know, I think he was relaying a lot of things. And to a point, he proved a point of why we need to be working with this group is these trails do go back to the 90s. They were kept up by what was called the Fat Cats back then. There was work groups, continuous work group that kept these trails up. They tried to steer the people into staying on the set trails and not making their own. When they went away, you know, that's what happened. When you don't have an overseer of the trails, when you don't have a group educating, and they have a great website, they have great communication to the people, when you don't have that, people just make their own. Oh, it's muddy. I'm going to drive through the mud, tear up the trail anyways. Oh, I'm going to go around it, make my own trail. Now you got a spider trail going off this way. Ah, a down tree. I'll go around it, make my own trail. So that's what we want to get away from. That's what's happening. There's just spider trails everywhere. We want to put the trails, the set trails down on what we want people to use. And there's a group that's going to say, hey, these trails are wet. We're going to stay out of here for now. Now, can you make everybody listen? No, but at least you have that group that is educating, that is you know, promoting good biking. And teaching young kids is a big part of this concept plan to grow up learning these proper etiquettes, learning how to properly bike, and having a great place for all family types and levels to be using. So I really commend them. You're going to see a lot of that in the presentation. We heard a lot about environment, invasives. They're going to be covering that too. I'd like to state about invasives. We have them. We have them at Evergreen. We have garlic mustard. We have buckthorn. We have frags jumping up here and there. Okay, can you blame them on the bikes? No. Okay, in 2016 we did quite a bit of removals of big maple trees in Maywood, and the two things I learned. Okay, you've got 30-year-old maple trees that are sitting under these trees that are only an inch in diameter. They're not growing because they're overpowered by the canopy of the big ones. Second thing, I'm sorry, invasives are going to start popping up because now the sunshine's coming in and they're going to have a chance to grow. Okay, invasives are just going to happen. But I don't know of one group, other than a biking group, that has ever put in man hours to come into Evergreen Park and do invasive removals. Help improve the trails. It's always been a bike group. It's been the Fat Cats when I first moved here. It's been Carl Martin. And now it's this group. They're the ones that are saying, we're going to do it. We're going to make things better. We put the manpowers in. Everybody else, I would love to say, okay, what are you going to do? You come in here and say, what, did you think of this? Yeah. Are you doing anything about it? Are you going out there? Are you picking garlic mustard? Are you helping? Or are you just here to say, please leave Evergreen alone? You leave Evergreen alone, you can see what's going to happen. We can already see that. We want to make Evergreen better. And we feel that we have a good plan where we can do that. And the city is going to have to be approving every step of the way. Parking came up. We have 135 spaces in JC Quarry Park, JC Park. Okay, so there's 135 spaces there. There's 90 in Area 4. So where Making Spirits Bright sets up there, where you drop off the food, 90 there. There's 38 in Area 3. That's just the larger areas, okay? So over 263 parking spots. I don't think we need to worry that we're gonna fill out the park with bikers. We can, lots of room for bikers, lots of room for the picnickers, for family gatherings. That's the nice thing, is all these things work together. Shaw Family Playground, our shelters for rent, our picnicking, our gatherings. Now I can have a family reunion and hey, tell the kids to bring their bikes or the adults, you know. We're looking at kid playgrounds on bikes that are not going to be interrupting space for the rest of the areas. So we got great things going on in that park, and I think we can even make it better with the help of this group. So at this time, I just want to introduce Nathaniel and Judd and let them do their little presentation, which is really good. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you for your enthusiasm, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. That couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having us back so quick. So I just want to reiterate, today the concept plan that we are speaking of is only Evergreen Park. In the agenda, there were a couple documents submitted as for reference. They were two parts of the full concept plan that IMBA provided. But today we're only focusing on Evergreen Park. Just a little bit about SEC, where, as Judd put here, we're taking a holistic approach. We're really trying to get communities connected and engaged through safe cycling routes, access to outdoor recreation, just a safe environment to get adults, families, youth, just everyone outside. Big part of this is this picture right here. That's a kids' bike playground we put on over at Three Sheeps at our bike festival last June. We had, 70, 80 kids out there riding, just having a blast throughout the day, just something they were all really enjoying. We had countless adults come up to us and tell us that, this was awesome and they really appreciate what we were doing, and it was a great opportunity. The kids loved it. In addition, bolsters Sheboygan's outdoor recreation economy and renewed awareness of human environmental interconnectedness. Look at you with your big words.
I have many big words. Part of our vision, again, is a holistic approach to cycling, not to be called cyclists, but to create an infrastructure and a community around people that bicycle to do things. So I also drive a car. People don't call me a motorist. So I just happen to ride my bike. Part of this is creating a recreational space for people to cycle, to learn skills on a bike, in the hopes that they will then take those skills and use that skill out on the roadways to better manage obstacles and their environment around them, to make a safer community by having more people aware of how to properly ride a bike in a safe, constructive way. Bicycle study I've got up here was a study done by the University of Wisconsin for Bayfield and Sawyer counties. This is a one-year cost or a economic benefit to those counties in 1 year, just through having recreational bicycling infrastructure in those two counties. And we'd like to have a little bit of that here as well.
And for anyone aware, those counties, the primary attention drawer up there is the Hayward area, which just had their ski burkey up there. Huge recreation area for decades now.
And we have a NICA group in Sheboygan, a composite team, the National Interscholastic Cycling Association of Student Athletes. They are very serious about teaching their student riders good stewardship of the land through a teen trail care program that they offer, as well as just the everyday awareness of the fact that they need wild places to ride bikes, and if they don't protect them, they don't have a place to ride. So environmental advocacy by the NICA group is enormous. Very famous trail builder, Tony Boone. People don't need trails, the land does. And what Joe was saying earlier about all the spiderweb trails, if you don't put in designated routes, people will trample all over anywhere they please if you don't create a nice, friendly user experience for everybody. They will make their own trails, and we don't want that anymore.
And we are talking from a cycling perspective, but this is in regard to everyone who uses the outdoors. Hikers, bikers, skiers, horseback riders, and us saying trails for bike does not mean exclusively bike.
As far as the trail care that we have done in Evergreen, just last year alone, 323 hours. Some of that was putting signage up. A lot of that was clearing down trees, keeping debris off of trails so that you can see where the trail is, so you don't start widening the trail by guessing which path to go. Invasive species control is something we do constantly out there. As you could imagine, as Joe was saying, there is invasive species everywhere. Buckthorn is one of the worst. Just through string trimming along the trails, there's constant trying to keep some of the new invasives that have gathered lots of strength because of the sun that they now get because of all the trees that have busted off. But somebody last week had mentioned something about the cost involved in maintaining trails. And I ran a couple of numbers after that comment. And for the 323 hours that we did, as volunteers, if we were to charge $40 an hour, which is not a lot, but it's not unreasonable. Last year, that would be an investment of $12,920 in volunteer hours at $40 an hour. Closer to a contractor rate would be about $75 an hour, and that would be $24,225 that we invested in volunteer hours in one season with not a small amount of effort, but also without any major power tools, without doing any excavation work. This is just maintaining the trails. So we want these trails available to everybody, and that's a pretty good value, especially when you have volunteers doing it. And for another example, the field flagging alone in one of the estimates we got for 4.6 miles of trails, the total cost that they estimated for us was $25,000. If you were to give an estimate conservatively or not conservatively of plus or minus 20 hours, which would be 2.5 days of labor, that comes to $1,250 an hour to have somebody flag the trails, to create trails for us to ride. So I think the $40 at roughly $13,000 that we've invested in the park in a year is a very good deal. We just got some pictures of some of us working on the trail. There is a trail in that big pile of grass that requires somebody to go through and clear that. The next slide is a bunch of the exposed roots, and then if you see in the background there where it's darker soil over that was some of the soil we moved in last fall to help cover up some of those eroded trail roots and create a new tread that is a lot smoother and a lot safer for younger and new riders to enjoy the trails. Some signage that we installed in the park after mapping things out. We spent numerous months mapping the trails on an app called TrailForks. We created designated routes and installed signposts as well as decals on those posts to show complete designated routes around the trails. We could use more signs just to remind people that yes, they are still on the right trail, but there are clearly defined routes for, as far as I know, the first time ever for all the mountain bike trails. Again, just some more of our volunteers doing what we do, and we love to be out there doing it. It's not work. It's a giant backyard for us, and we get to take care of something really magnificent. And that's some of what things look like after. There's that trail underneath all that grass. It's like, it needs somebody to take care of it. And we've offered our services to do that.
So there has often, Joe mentioned trail conditions and shutting trails when they're muddy, and like right now, you really don't want people out in the woods when it's 50 degrees out, melting half a foot of snow. It's gonna be a muddy mess and they're gonna tear up the trails. We have an app called TrailBot, which is paired into our website, and our trail volunteers can update the conditions on there, give people an indication of what the conditions are. This isn't a guarantee to keep people off the trails. This isn't, a finable law or anything of that nature. It's just a tool to encourage people, hey, it's really nasty out there right now. Please stay off them, respect the volunteers, respect the land, and also save yourself a drive. Because if someone drives out to the park, they find, it's a little muddy. I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm already here. I'm just gonna go for it. Just gonna go for my hike or my ride. If you give people the warning in advance, they're a lot less likely to cause the damage.
And with that app, it might keep people from traveling all the way to Sheboygan. If we have quality trails, which is what we're hoping to create here, it would keep them from coming all the way here only to realize it was closed. And if they're let down, they may or may not come back. But once we have the opportunity to put up a trail kiosk, this is a web-based app. So all they have to do is go up to our kiosk, type in TrailBot, and they could check the conditions before going on the trail to see whether or not they should be there or not. It's one of the biggest things with the etiquette that we try to teach everybody. If the trail is wet, stay off it. If you're leaving a tire track or a footprint, don't use the trail. And for the most part, most people absolutely, they heed that warning. So many people are quite environmentally responsible, not to mention they don't want mud all over their bike and they have to wash it, but yeah, it's a good thing.
So moving on to the concept plan itself, this is the bulk of what we're here today for. So there was a early, very bare bones concept plan done back in 2021 that was done prior to us coming into the project. Joe and Carl from Eventron had worked together to come up with this one. And the big takeaways back then were they want to manage and improve existing trails, develop trails and bike facilities that deliver a higher quality experience to the community as a whole, provide healthy activities for residents with a focus on attracting youth, and providing a training facility for the NICA team, as we talked about earlier, and re-engage volunteer groups to assist with advocacy and maintenance. I think we're nailing it with number 5. And this is going into the concept plan that we're presenting today. I just want to give a little background on some of the things that we gathered out of those supporting documents that were in the pre-reads. The community survey results. We had nearly 200 people respond to our survey. When talking with the IMBA representatives, they say that for a community our size, getting 100 people to engage in a survey of this nature is phenomenal. You knocked out of the park. We doubled that. So we're pretty thrilled about that. As mentioned in the last meeting, the comments, there's 150 some comments in the document that was in the pre-reads. It's a mixture of, yes, we want new modern cycling attractions. We want to maintain the existing trails and get signage up there, and we just want to be able to enjoy what we have now. And please don't do it. We don't want to see change out the park. But overall, we think we got a lot of people that are in support of Evergreen should be something more. We wanted to just give you guys a little idea of what the current use of the park is. Strava has this lovely thing called a heat map that just gives you an idea of where people are logging on their watches, their phones, where they're going out in the properties. And you can just see here for hikers, they're utilizing that road really heavily going through Evergreen Park, and just trails all throughout Evergreen, Maywood, Quarry. Just, it's a very well-used park. People really enjoy exploring the park on foot. And you see very similar on bike. This is data from 2023 before there was any signage out there marking a mountain bike loop. And you just see people really are everywhere in the park. Over by the Quarry, there is our cyclocross races there in the heat map. So people aren't normally riding there. That's the middle of the disc golf course. We don't normally have people riding through the disc golf course like that. But for the rest of it, people really do love utilizing the park. If you'll notice going north, south, west to northeast, there's a really strong line going all the way through. I suspect a lot of people are using these three parks as a commuter corridor. They're just connecting to the city through this parks through a beautiful natural environment. And moving into the bulk of it. So this is just the trail network vision for Evergreen Park. In here you can see some preliminary concepts of, this has some of the items on the layer page just marked as a zone still, and some of the zones such as the traditional shared use and the flow zones define more as potential lines that could be in there. We want to include this to really showcase that in the next slide that the layer slide you're gonna see, it shows them as blob zones. Those are just meant to say, this is where it's gonna be, not we're gonna remove all the vegetation, all the trees here, and it's gonna be just bike trail and nothing else. It's similar to what's out there now, just refreshed, revamped, revitalized. And these are those zones. Just really looking, this is the specific item that we're looking for approval on, this concept plan for Evergreen itself. We're looking to move forward with some build bid documents to give higher level detail of what the trails will look like. But again, all these zones, with the exception of the asphalt pump track, they're gonna be 2 to 4 foot wide dirt trail through the woods. Currently within Evergreen Quarry Maywood, there's close to 20 miles of trail. There's substantially more trail out there than anyone realizes. At the end of the day, moving forward this concept plan, we'll see a reduction in trail. Because right now there are still a lot of duplicate trails. Judd and the trail committee have done great works reducing some of those and closing some of them off. But some of them still exist just because it's the nature of the park. Without more involved processes, people are still reopening some trails. But this realistically would probably result in similar to slightly less mileage in the park for trails.
Reduced trails, but a higher quality experience.
Correct.
And better to maintain.
And much better safety. One of the big issues out there is there's a lot of corners on the trails. They're just really tight, really blind. It's really common when you're hitting the road crossing that it's just a straightaway to the road and then a straight after the road for 100 yards. And that encourages a lot of extra speed. So sometimes people are coming out and it's coming in blind into the road, so they're coming out with a bit more speed than they should. There's things we can do, putting in some corners with good visibility that'll still slow people down, putting some technical features there that'll slow people down to improve safety in the park. Anything else you want to add?
Cycling is one of those anomalies, off-road cycling is one of those anomalies where the trail itself is what gives the recreation the experience. It's not the destination. If you're hiking somewhere, a lot of times you're hiking to a destination, not always. But for most cycling, it is about the quality of the trail itself and your experience riding it that matters more than anything else. So making sure sight lines are open and making sure trails drain properly and that there is a vastly reduced user conflict scenario, that is what the professional builders will bring to the table in design bid documents.
And here's just a map showing some of the existing trail. This shows the existing loop that we now have signed and recommend. But as previously noted, if you look in one of the supporting documents, there's a massive map with hundreds of pictures showing some of the conflict zones and erosion points, damaged bridges, just whole list of things you can dig through and see what the current conditions were like and what we're trying to improve. And just get an idea of how many miles are truly out there. We don't believe the IMBA assessment captured all the trails either. There's a lot out there that
Right, they said
either
they
you had
couldn't
already
ride them
closed
all.
or they just couldn't get to in time.
And they recommended this as the phase one IMBA did. And that was a
price tag of 35,000 they had put on that for initial phase, and that is, it can always use improvement. It will always need to be adjusted and it will evolve, but that 35,000 is no longer a concern there. So we're quite happy about that.
And here's phase two. We're now entering, there's 3 build phases that we are currently pursuing within Evergreen Park, pursuing approval to proceed with. These 3 phases are, of course, depending on the design bid documents we get and council approval and funding. But this first one is the one we are most interested in pursuing quickly because it contains our lovely bike playground, which we've been doing those now for 2 summers. This last summer, we had well over 300 kids attend the 7 bike playgrounds we did. We did a couple of them at Evergreen Park, some at the farmer's market, at our bike festival. Just really awesome to see so many kids out and engaged in there. And we really want to make that permanent feature right next to Shaw Playground and just really turn Shaw Playground and Evergreen into just this amazing hub for families and kids and just get them outdoors. And then it also includes the flow zone, which, as mentioned before, it's currently marked by the pink blob. This would include 3 to 4 lines descending from the top of the hill down to the bottom and connecting to the green perimeter trail, which that'd just be a very mellow, very family-friendly trail option so that all skill levels can ride that and a lot of the other things or hike that. And this is the full concept plan. This document does include the Maywood and Quarry notes, just to give you guys perspective of where those are in relationship to our focus area of Evergreen Park. And it includes our advanced skill zones and jump lines, NICA warm-up and skill zone, traditional shared use trail. These are all just more definition to come. These are all just traditional single-use trails to machine-built trails. So just fun, still dirt. We're not looking to rip out the forest or anything. We're just incorporating the trails within the trees and within the native environment. And here's an example of one of those downhill flow trails. It's swerving in between the trees, descending the hillside. And the grade and nature of the trail just enables water to wick off of it in a very effective manner. So it reduces erosion, reduces damage to the ground, and it's just a lot more sustainable and enjoyable. It'll dry a lot quicker so people can use it without tracking mud around a lot quicker. And some of these trails will be machine built and will be wide enough and high quality enough to support adaptive cyclists. This isn't a huge thing in the area currently, but it's growing in popularity in some more prevalent mountain biking communities. You head down to places like Knoxville, Tennessee, and Bentonville, Arkansas, and they'll have teams of adaptive cyclists just going on and enjoying the trails. And there's some nonprofit groups out there that are using adaptive cyclists as a therapy method because it gives, for example, war vets or people who lost limbs and legs in accidents, car accidents and such, it gives them an outlet to get outside and feel like they're normal again. When they can't walk around, but they can stand there and still move, you get that reconnection again. And here's a close-up of the bike playground. This is our portable one. We just bring it out, set it up in a couple of hours. We have a small collection of loaner bikes now as well, thanks to just local individuals donating some and Trek Sheboygan donating some to our events. And we think we got 11 or 12 of them now. So it's just awesome. We're able to put kids on bikes, loan them a helmet, and they go out and have a blast for an afternoon. Go ahead.
This is just an example of what one of these skill zone areas would look like in the woods. Just some field stone laid up with a cord walk that you just learn how to ride slow, how to corner properly. It's a low impact and low risk ability to learn some skills. If you fall, you make sure that there's nothing below that you're going to land on that's going to hurt you. And if you fell,
it was 6 inches, and most of these would be things you could easily roll right off of. You wouldn't have to jump your bike or anything. You could literally ride right over it. And to have it built seamlessly into the environment and into the woods would be the ultimate goal, is that it looks really at home and at place, and it belongs in the environment, not where it would be a scar. That's not what we want. These are some examples of some of the techniques and some of the guidelines that a professional trail builder would use to make sure that trails are kept at a specific grade. If there are areas where water has a chance to go straight downhill, they'll throw in number 4, what would be a grade reversal. Very simple, easy, practical things when you're grading the soil to make sure that you are having the least negative impact possible on the environment around you. Of course, anything we do in the environment has a potential to have a negative aspect. Anything we do as humans has the potential to have a negative aspect. We're trying to mitigate as much of that as possible and improve some of what's already out there, because some of the slopes that exist out there for trail riding is what the trail industry would consider very unsustainable, and it's kind of why we would like to have new trails designed and built so that we do have a more sustainable trail system that doesn't require the same maintenance and doesn't have the same problems we currently face. Just another example of how you would run a trail along the side of a slope to make sure that you are handling water.
I'm not sure if this is particularly relevant at this stage, so I'll just skim right through it. We do have some basic costing from IMBA. This is to be refined once we have a design bid document, but it puts phase 2, that initial build phase, at around 400,000. And of that, I think I mentioned last time, we have 170 or so fundraised already. Oh, I'm blind, apologies. And then moving on to phase 3 and phase 4, we have budgets of around 600K and 660K. Those were for the later mileage phase and the pay pump track. We're looking to pursue design bid for phase 2 and 3 and visit phase 4 at a later time, but would like conceptual approval of all 3 at this, well, of the full Evergreen concept at this time.
Can you show which trails you're talking about?
Yeah, of
for
course.
Each, which is phase 1, which phase 2, so we have some kind of an idea what you're talking about with.
So phase 2, are you able, oh, you are able to zoom. Oop, sorry, I shouldn't have touched the mouse.
Okay.
I just want to stay.
Phase 2, phase 1 was the signage and wayfinding, in that with the help of the
That really
city,
isn't like me.
we marked the existing trails out there. And we have a plan this year to put in a very simple trailhead sign so people know where to start their ride. For phase 2, the big things were the kids' bike playground, the beginner intermediate skill zone, both down here to the right by Shaw, and then the flow trail in the center, and the perimeter green loop. The whole goal of this phase of it is to put in trails that incorporate the existing signed trails out there, while giving something really fun for new riders and really engage the community before we move on to the later stuff. Just fundraising for $1 million plus is a lot bigger bite to take than 400 grand.
And the Shaw playground area, the bicycle playground, is probably the only part of this that's really exposed more visible. All of the flow zone and everything, that's deep into the core of Evergreen. So you wouldn't even see any of that going on from the roadway.
And then for phase 3, it included this further out shared traditional use that included optimized mountain bike trails and a hike-only trail going down the center of it to give people a great connection where if they don't want to deal with bikes, they don't have to, and they can connect over to Maywood. The jump or advanced skills zone and the NICA zone and the advanced skill zone up here. And then phase 4 was only the asphalt pump track. And then as noted before, Quarry Park and Maywood, those are completely outside of this request right now. Those are further discussions we need to have with appropriate stakeholders and come up with different plans for those properties.
And as of right now, these are just preliminary zones. So even the zones themselves, pending approval, can be relocated or adjusted. So nothing is permanent. Well, nothing is ever permanent. But until somebody starts flagging trail on the ground, all of this can be moved. And even after they get flagged, somebody may have a concern and will move the orientation of that trail again after flagging. So there's lots of room for this to evolve as we continue our conversations.
Okay. Just end of it for now, or?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
good.
all right, great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Well, how this is gonna work, I'm gonna open it up to my fellow alders first. They're gonna have their discussion, and then I will open it up to public comments. I am limiting it to 3 minutes. I apologize, but with the amount of people here, if we did not have that, we would be here till midnight. So, I wanna give everyone a chance that wants to speak, but I also don't wanna keep everyone, we have to be respectful of staff and everyone else here. So I'm going to open it up if any of the alders wish to speak. We're going to start with Angela.
Thank you, Chair. I would like some clarification on when you were giving the a dollar amount of like your volunteer hours would equal about this much money. I'm still I'm a little confused. So is the group committing to still doing volunteer hours?
Absolutely.
So there is, so the question, I guess, is what is the actual dollar cost from the city? Is that zero, or after the fundraising is done? Because your group will be maintaining all of the trails.
Currently, right now, there is no agreement in stone written up for the city to take over any control of maintenance of the trails. Right now, we've agreed to do that. So that is another discussion that could happen down the road. In theory, these trails are going to take less maintenance than what we currently have to put into it, just because, well, for one, they'll be newer. Not all the trails, the newer trails, obviously, will require very little maintenance. And our volunteer turnout is fairly solid, but most of those people still then leave town to go bike better quality trails. I have a feeling, and this is just a feeling, based on all the volunteers that have come to help us, that if we have better quality trails here, we'll have a renewed interest in more volunteerism amongst the community, and I'm excited for that part.
Across the county as a whole, we maintain 3 trail systems, and the other 2 trail systems, Rocky Knoll and Greenbush, we've been allowed to make improvements out those trails, and just really having clear objectives for volunteer workdays has really helped in getting volunteers. Our largest workday was almost 30 volunteers out at a trail system, there for 4 or 5 hours, just clearing and improving the trail, improving drainage. And also with the city specifically, we are in discussions of a memorandum of understanding to clearly define what is on us for maintenance and what's on the city. Obviously, if a giant flood comes in and we lose a hillside or a road or something major, we're gonna ask the city for some assistance or come up with a new plan. Like, that's gonna be emergency discussion, but day to day, at this point in time, it will be volunteer.
Can I do a quick follow-up, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Do you concur with that, Joe? Do you anticipate budgeting for this, or?
Yes, yeah, I totally agree with them. So at this time, we do not have a budget, any money set aside, but I do look at as a partnership. Okay, so some of the slides that they were showing you last year, actually a lot of the topsoil they were using were our stump grinding that have been sitting there for a couple of years, and we turn over free topsoil that we were able to put back into the park. So we're being creative and helping them. We're partnership. We're going to help them in different ways. Right now, they're not able to use chainsaws where chainsaws are needed. We will assign our forestry crew, 1 or 2 people, 2 usually, because we're using chainsaws, 1, 2 people, to go out and, you know, make sure the trails are being cleared if needed for chainsaws. So that's being done at Maywood, that's being done at JC Quarry Park, that's being done at Evergreen, so things like that. So yes, I look at this as a partnership, but yes, we don't have, hey, I got $10,000 to help you guys with this year. No, I don't. You know, we're just working together.
Great, thank you.
Alder Rust.
Thank you, Chair. I thought it was very interesting that first slide where you brought up the economic impact on certain communities, and I think that's something that we really can grow on in the city of Sheboygan. I personally haven't biked since I was in Boy Scouts, but I really respect what you guys do and all the work you do, and I think that this is really an opportunity for the city to expand on another industry and become another way to become a tourist destination, not just have our lakefront and all of our other aspects that we bring to the city, but this is also another one. So I want to thank you. I think that you guys did a great job with this. I learned a lot. I wasn't here for the last meeting, but I just want to thank you, and I'm in support of this personally. I think it's a great idea.
All right, Alder Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. Couple things. So I'm a little different than Zach. He's a young guy that didn't really do a lot of biking. I'm an old guy that does a lot of biking. I bike about 2,000 miles a year on a road bike, and I have all the admiration for everything that you guys are doing. I'm not a mountain biker or a dirt biker, but I think that this organization is fantastic. I was at a meeting, an organizational meeting or an informational meeting that you guys did in March at Ivers Incorporated back in March, and was very impressed with everything that you guys do. I don't know if the community is aware of, there's a lot of things that they do in addition to managing these trails. They're responsible for making sure that we are certified as a bronze level biking community within the county, and also Sheboygan is that. If I looked this up, there's only 22 entities within the state of Wisconsin right now that have any kind of recognition from this organization, and we have 2 of them. One is at the county level and one is at the city level. And the county level, you guys are responsible for that, and I thank you very much. I also support this. I think it's a good idea for Sheboygan. I think as long as we can maintain some semblance of ensuring that we make it environmentally friendly, and we're very careful and mindful of that, I think that's fantastic. The fact that right now we don't have any requirement from the city as far as funding, although that may change. I mean, right now, I think I look at this as being very analogous to what we've done with the DeLand Park concept and the Fountain Park concept. We have to put the concept out there, give you guys the ability to kind of start coming up with some RFPs, and then at that point in time, we'll have the ability to kind of look at this. The Common Council will always have the ability to block this if we feel like it's not going the way that we want it to, and I think that right now there's no reason that we shouldn't recommend this to the Common Council. Finally, so my biking past has gone on for years. I do the RAGBRAI, I've done that for years. I do all kinds of cycling across the Midwest, and one of the things that, and I mentioned this at the informational meeting, and this is me being a little bit of taking the pulpit right now, but one of the things I think you guys really need to think about is trying to incorporate road cycling into your organization. If you look at the consumer spending within the state of Wisconsin, we have over $1 billion of consumer spending within the state of Wisconsin on road biking. And there's about $400 million in off-road biking. And so I think if you guys were to somehow figure out a way to incorporate road cyclists into your organization by advocating for safe and better roads and complete streets and things like that. I think that that would better your guys' organization, make you more credible than what you already are, and it'd just be more beneficial for all of us right now. So I will be signing up for a membership to your organization after this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if
Alder
you know
Bellinger.
anyone who is interested in helping us on the roadside, we're definitely looking for volunteers on that.
Alder Bellinger.
Thank you, Chair. I concur with my fellow aldermen. I'm in favor of this. A couple weeks ago, my daughter was in town. She lives in North Carolina, and I made her aware that this was a possibility, that this could happen. And she was incredibly excited. She teaches a mountain bike class at Wake Forest University. She manages their outdoor recreation program. She's very well aware of the commitment that the volunteers have, building the trails, maintaining the trails. She said, "Dad, these guys will do everything. And you guys should really look forward to it, and it's going to be a tremendous benefit." She grew up here in Sheboygan. She's familiar with the property, and she said this would just be a fantastic thing, and a tradition, just a fantastic asset for the city, something that we don't currently have. So I'm in support of it. I just do have one question. I'd like Alderman Peterson, I am a road bike person as well, and so I concur with his sentiment on that, and I think that would be fantastic if we had some more awareness for road bikes. We've had some unfortunate road bike accidents in the county, and that is scary for people that road bike, and there's a lot of inattentive driving going on, and it's usually not the fault of the bikers, but anyway, if something like that could be done, I would be in support and volunteer and help out in that as well. But I do have a question on this plan. And I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I'm just wondering, would e-bikes be allowed in this venue or not? Or what your thoughts are on e-bikes?
We know plenty of cyclists in the community who use e-bikes. I'm not super familiar with the classing, but I believe class 1 is e-bike assist. Those, personally, I'm fine with. It will be a discussion involving more than just us on what's appropriate in the park. But I do also know that there are some other options. Class 3, I believe it was just pure throttle. And those can go quite fast. Those we would definitely say no to. They're fast, they're going 30, 40 miles an hour and just too dangerous.
Class 1 and Class 2 would be considered no throttle at all. And there are a lot of people, Dano, he's very overweight and we love it, but he uses his e-bike and if he did not have the e-bike, he probably would have stopped riding years ago. And as it is now, he travels all over all year round, biking everywhere. So for guys like him, especially, I would say e-bikes should be allowed. And again, proper sight lines and proper construction of the trails makes that much less of a concern. And as far as trail erosion and stuff, the only studies that I could find that actually did honest comparable tests that could be duplicated showed no difference in any of the forms other than horseback riding to cause more damage to a trail, except when a tire skids. So tires on trails, hiking, neither one of them showed more damage, except horses and their hooves seemed to cause damage in a skidding tire. So I don't think e-bikes, as long as the trails are built well enough with good sight lines, that is any sort of problem at all. In fact, it'd be quite the asset to let people know that they can, and that would bring a lot more people that aren't physically ready to do a trail.
We're seeing a lot of positive change coming from e-bikes. A decade ago, they were very frowned upon. It's coming around to the degree of Marquette, Michigan, a huge tourist destination for outdoor recreation. Last year, approved mountain bike or e-bikes in their trail system. And we're seeing, as he pointed out, we're seeing a lot of people in their 70s that are still out mountain biking or road biking and hanging out with groups and just enjoying the sport because they have an e-bike and they can get that little bit of assistance, take off the difficulty a little bit, keep their heart rate down a little more, and just get out and enjoy it. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the presentation. It was fantastic, and I'm in full support, so thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, well, I'm gonna just get my 2 cents in before I let the public kind of talk in. I'm a little more optimistic, or a little, cautious, a little more cautious than some of my fellow alders. I am a little concerned. I mean, it is, Evergreen Park's probably, I would say probably our most popular park in the city. If it's not, it's used quite a bit already. I mean, it's got a heavy workload on it. We have numerous other parks in this city, but it does have a heavy workload on it already. And so adding more to it gives me a little bit of pause. Not saying I'm against this, because the things that I see or that encourage me about it is maintaining and the current trails that are there and actually bringing them up to what they should, the standards that should be, so that we're not creating erosion and things like that, excuse me. So I'm a little bit leery on some of the things, though, because of the fact that, like I said, it is a heavily used park by a lot of other patrons. And I know you guys have talked about, you working together, but my thing is I would like to see it done in phases and see how these phases go, because I don't want to see, you guys have a lot of things on here, and I think if we go to the full boat, I think it might be a little too much for that park, to be honest with you. I mean, I think a lot of the things, the trails that you have on there are great, and I think to be able to maintain and take care of the trails that are there is a great thing. But like I said, I am a little concerned about overloading that park. So with that, I'm going to ask, I know some community members have asked to it. Like I said, I am going to limit you to 3 minutes. I don't have a timer or anything. I can just, I suppose, we'll just kind of keep an eye on it. Please be brief for the most part is what I'm asking, and please be respectful. Thank you. And give your name and address when you do come to the mic. You're first? Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Well, good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to address the committee. My name is Mike Scheringer. I'm a resident of the City of Sheboygan, a property owner, a taxpayer. Limited 3 minutes, so first I just want to address some of what I heard, 6 points. One was the question of parking. I go through that park almost every week, every weekend, and I can tell you that on the weekends in the summer and fall, I would not describe it as ample parking. There's certainly not enough infrastructure to support Evergreen Park being a destination for mountain biking. The comment about who else is coming in to maintain the park, hats off to SCC and their volunteer work. It's admirable. However, but what I hear is an admission that the city is not able to maintain the park as it is. If this advances to the full council and it goes for a vote, taxpayers of Sheboygan are not going to believe that a $1.5 million infrastructure investment in the park is not going to recover or require maintenance activities in the future that won't put a financial obligation on taxpayers. 3, the Skills Learning Center. I really love the idea of the young kids in the Skills Learning Center. That's a great idea, but that does not require extensive trail networks crisscrossing what are sensitive areas of the park. 4, the economic benefit. The case study, $7.8 million impact to counties. I believe there's truth to that. But we have Rocky Knoll and Greenbush as 2 well-established centers, and they are within the county. This proposal is not going to generate that kind of benefit to the city of Sheboygan. It's going to generate costs. 5, I love the example of the eroded trails. That shows you that mountain biking is a high impact activity. And that's okay, done in the right areas. But there are areas of Evergreen Park that are extremely sensitive areas. And 6, they showed a couple of zones. Zone F is located on the south edge of the park between the Loop Road and the properties on 29th Street and Cherokee Drive. Proposing high skills center with jumps in an area adjacent to your neighbors is very short-sighted. It's going to lead to noise, pollution, littering, We don't want that there. Citizens don't want that there. Zones G and A, go back to that map. Those are highly sensitive areas of Evergreen Park, and I'll speak to that in a minute. The proposal as it is envisioned through its 3 phases will dramatically change the makeup and use of Evergreen Park. Evergreen Park was originally envisioned as a natural area in the middle of a growing city. Mountain biking and cycling are excellent activities. They're fun, they're healthy, they're family friendly. But that activity and those participants are just one subset of the people that use Evergreen Park. I ask you to consider that. There are other venues already in the county dedicated to mountain biking. I'd like to speak to the environment. I know I emailed every member of the committee and I included an attachment of a map. This map is not prepared by me. This map is prepared by Sheboygan County. And what it shows is a GIS mapping is available on the county website for anyone to go pull. The county did an overlay showing an erodibility index for me. Anything in red and orange is highly susceptible to erosion based on soil type and based on topography. If you take that map, which I emailed you, and you overlay what's being called designated or developed trails, they crisscross these areas. We should not be encouraging it, we should be limiting that.
Sorry, Michael, you're right.
Well, thank you, I appreciate the opportunity this evening. I did email all of you directly my feelings on it as well as that map. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Jim, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Jim Van Akkeren. I also live in the city of Sheboygan. I also emailed you with some of my concerns. My concern is specifically related to the actual resolution where it says, now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council approves the Evergreen Park Trail Assessment and Trail Improvement Concept. The problem is that that document, which was attached to the agenda, goes beyond Evergreen Park and it affects Maywood Park. So the resolution as it presently exists does not impact, or it does impact Evergreen Park, Maywood Park. I am the chairperson of the Property Stewardship Committee at Maywood. Yesterday I sent you that email with my concerns. I recognize that many of you are familiar with both Maywood Park and Elwood H. May Environmental Park Association of Sheboygan County, which supports the park. Some of you have volunteered and participated in our programs, and I thank you if you have. If you haven't, you should get out there. It is a wonderful park. The Elwood H. May Environmental Park Association of Sheboygan County Incorporated was founded in 1983 to support the mission of Maywood. We are the Friends Group for Maywood Park. Our group has a 35-member advisory board made up of individuals from a wide variety of backgrounds, including engineers, retirees, lawyers, dentists, CEOs, state representatives, teachers, and what I like to call professional volunteers, the people who out of the generosity of their heart make this a better community. Our volunteers range in age from preschoolers who pick up trash to 90-year-olds with their insight and wisdom. The work they all do is precious to us. Many community organizations have representatives on our advisory board, including scouting organizations, Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, the local garden clubs, public and private schools, the JCs, local universities, and the Sheboygan County Conservation Association. The advisory board met in July of last year to discuss the impact of bicycles in Maywood Park. The advisory board recommended that bicycles not be allowed on unpaved areas in Maywood for many of the reasons you found that can be found in the attachment to the email I sent you last evening. The association at Maywood has an executive committee which makes the final decisions about the association's positions. The executive committee passed a resolution last August stating the association desires no bikes allowed in Maywood except on paved lots, driveways, blacktop, and hardscape. Over the years, the association has contributed thousands of volunteer hours and millions of dollars to make Maywood Park the gem it is today.
Jim, you're getting it.
Okay. I ask you to consider that this park is a valuable resource to the community and that you maintain it as a valuable resource when you approve the, whatever you might approve on the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Steve Hopsfield. I'm a resident of the area where Evergreen Park is. Tonight, this committee is set to vote on forwarding a resolution that will drastically change Evergreen Park from a natural green space into an artificial bicycle amusement park. The plan being put forward by Sheboygan County Cycling will destroy most of Evergreen Park's forest. Yes, the park's trails have deteriorated and are in need of repair and signage. And yes, there are many confusing so-called spider trails. Trails can be repaired and signs installed without destroying the forest. Adding 7 bicycle skill zones will destroy the forest and are not needed. Photographs provided by IMBA and SCC illustrating what the skill zones would look like show open areas with few, if any, trees. According to SCC's concept plan, skill zones will occupy the majority of the park. But if by chance there actually is demand for bicycle skill zones, which require open space, why build them in Evergreen Park? Why not build them in one or more of Sheboygan's many parks that already have lots of open and unused space? Kiwanis Park, Lakeview Park, Roosevelt Park, Optimist Park, Cleveland Park, Moose Park, and the list goes on. Why add the financial expense and environmental cost of destroying a forest to this project when these features could be built in more suitable locations? Both SCC's plan and this committee's resolution state that there has been community engagement and input was solicited from relevant stakeholders. But is that true? Who are the relevant stakeholders? Have Evergreen Park's neighbors been notified of the drastic change that is coming to their neighborhood? No. Have they been consulted? No. Are they made aware of these meetings? No. Although the city has been in discussion with SCC for several years, this project has mostly flown under the radar. There has been only one public meeting concerning this project, and that was last year. The plan presented today is the same one that was presented last year. Public input from last year's meeting has had no apparent effect on the plan. This hardly qualifies as community engagement and stakeholder input. From 2022 to 2024, the city funded a report that updated the Architectural and Historic Resources Survey of Sheboygan. The report was given to the Sheboygan Historic Preservation Commission in May of 22. A public presentation of the report was made in this chamber in May of 23. The report resides on the city's website. In the report, the Evergreen Park Historic District was identified as having 30 historic resources within its border. Comparing a map of the location of the historic resources within the park and the SCC's plan map shows that the SCC's plan overlays the historic resources. Okay, last sentence, second last sentence. Are IMBA, SCC, and the city aware of this? Do any of the principals know if or how that affects the project? Do they care? This seems like another relevant stakeholder that wasn't consulted.
Thank you. Jim. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Robert Lyons. I live at 2746 North 29th Street. I spoke 2 weeks ago, a little bit lengthier. This one I'll make a little bit shorter and sweeter. I mentioned last time that I am a mountain biker. I'm a hiker. I do cross-country skiing. It's a gem of a park. As you can see from the figure that you had earlier of how they want to transform the park basically into a cycling center. I'm fine with like phase 1, and if you look at phases 2, 3, and even 4 possibly for the future, they're basically turning the park into 75% cycling and 25% walking, hiking, and skiing. Because if you look at those trails, and what even they showed, it was kind of interesting that they did show the downhill flow trail, and they showed the skill zone trails. Those did not look like walkable parks. sidewalks. If you look at them, they actually looked a little intrusive. Having banked, angled cycling hills does not look natural in any way or form for the park. If you look at the park currently, you have a lot of flat surfaces where you can walk, and I understand they're trying to do that to get water and soil erosion, but it's not natural. You wouldn't be able to walk, you wouldn't be able to cross-country ski any of those trails that they would install. And they were quite intrusive. Even the wooden plank trail does not look like the park. You're creating an amusement park. You're not creating a natural environment for what that park is in need of. And in some of the previous discussion, the community survey results, out of the community survey results, which they did speak of, 197 there were, 3 of them were yeses for the hike-only trail, mountain bike single trail, and their traditional shared use trail. There were definitely 3 no's. There was no's to the jump trails, there was no to the slope-style free ride trails, and there was also a no to the tot and pump track, even though I think the tot track might be kind of nice, because that'd be nice, something skill zone for the youth, and be near Shaw Park, I think that actually might be a good idea. And then two areas that were 50-50 were the bicycle playground and the skills trail. From the community input, those were just kind of a wash. Nobody was for or against those. And then one thing I do want to share is I appreciate their work in cleaning up the park to making the trails that are currently there. Last year, they said they spent roughly $15,000 to $23,000 cleaning up the trails so they could bring it back up, do some signage. Well, that's far cry number from what their website states between 5 and 15% maintenance per year if you complete all 4 projects or 4 phases. Even at 7.5%, which is half of what their own website says, is $123,900. I give them credit for putting in between $15,000 and $23,000 last year for their work and effort, but I don't know if they have the resources to multiply that by 5 times to take care of what is supposedly needed to cover this.
Okay.
And I think in the big scheme of things, if you look at it, a lot of the effort needs to be put forth into cleaning up the park from the tree damage. And I know they're talking about how these guys are trying to help clean up the park and get rid of invasive species. Unfortunately, I think our city just hasn't spent any time or effort to maintain that 98-acre park in 10 to 15 years. It's actually a shame.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ma'am, go ahead. If you could state your name and your address.
I'm Kathleen Hofschild. I live on North 29th Street near the park.
Okay.
I attended the listening session last year about the proposal to change Evergreen Park into a bike-centric park. At that time, information about this proposal recommended that the existing bike trails be consolidated, repaired, and carefully marked so riders can stay on the proper trails. I support these recommendations. However, the optimized plans to change the rest of the park, I feel, is an overreach and harmful to both the environment and the people who use the park. My first question to you is this: has due diligence been done to determine the environmental impact of the plan? For instance, has U.S. Fish and Wildlife or the Wisconsin DNR been contacted to provide guidance? Secondly, if there is a substantial tree loss, I believe that there would be drastic ecological damage. Loss of trees would mean less scrubbing of CO2 from the atmosphere, loss of habitat for birds, flowers, and other wildlife that inhabit the park, increased heating of the atmosphere due to lack of shade, and increased possibility of urban flooding. Most importantly, though, our people would be losing the quietness, greenness, and natural beauty of the park. People who need the park for mental and physical well-being, family gatherings, and picnics. Please consider these points when making your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Brian Kelly. I live at 2006 South 9th Street. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how I use the Evergreen Park. I mountain bike quite a bit. A couple of my friends live in Sheboygan, and every time that we've used the park, we've biked to the park, so we haven't needed to park anywhere. In addition to that, the Shoreline 400 ends very close to that, so what we'll do is we'll go bike for a while, bike down the Shoreline 400, go into downtown, eat, stuff like that. So I think there's that like economic benefit that wasn't really talked about. I think a lot of people will probably do something like that, go to eat after they enjoy the park. The biggest thing when I'm out there, I'm not a like expert mountain biker, is I think the signage would be great. I know there's concern about not having bikes going to Maywood. I don't really know where that line is, and a lot of the biking is like trying to find where you need to be on the trail. So I think if the signage was more clear, I would avoid Maywood. I would just try to stay to Evergreen. So, and then there's a concern about the SCC people with road bikes. A lot of them do work with me, and I saw a couple of them on the bike and pedestrian master plan meeting, so they are involved with the road biking stuff. So,
Thank you, Brian. Okay, I guess that's it then. Okay, like I said, sorry, go ahead. Alder Ramey.
Thank you, Chair. Are we allowed to ask questions still or no? Based on that?
Yeah.
I need clarification on the trees. I've heard several people bringing up that we're taking down all these trees. Is that the case?
100% not. The nature of mountain bike trails is they're fluid. When you're laying them down, you can define a path that avoids taking down any trees above a certain diameter. A very common practice is you do with the landowners, this case city, you define a minimum tree size that you want to retain, say 2-inch diameter. Anything bigger than 2-inch diameter you can't cut. You have to flag the line and plan the line to account for that and not take down those trees.
Great, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Alder Bellinger?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. You're okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead then. Alder West.
So just to be clear too, we're just approving a resolution for a concept plan. We're not actually saying that this is going to happen. This committee will still have final say when we're ready to actually approve the plan. We're not saying anything in stone tonight, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Kendra.
Thank you, I appreciate that. My name is Kendra Kelling. I'm the Park Director at Elwood H. May Environmental Park. Speaking on behalf of the Elwood H. May Environmental Park Association of Sheboygan County. So our organization supports Elwood H. May Environmental Park, also known as Maywood, which is directly adjacent to Evergreen Park and impacted by this plan. As neighbors and community partners, we appreciate the continued efforts of Sheboygan County Cycling and the City of Sheboygan to work toward a resolution that we can all feel comfortable supporting. Maywood has supported the cycling community for a number of years, especially road biking. We have long held a big Earth Ride event historically. That is no longer, but we do continue Team Maywood, which is a group ride event that helps people become more comfortable with road biking as well. So we do support the cycling community, but specifically we have concerns on the trails, especially within Maywood Park itself, which is managed more as a nature preserve and it's an environmental park. So we acknowledge changes have been made to the resolution and the park boundaries are more concise. However, there still are concerns with the plan. And as an environmental organization, we owe it to our members in the community to make sure that the resolution is absolutely clear about what is and what is not included. This ensures future discussion and approval of any future developments rather than risking that they unintentionally get included due to any unclear or misinterpreted wording. So you've heard some concerns about the wording of the resolution. Sounds like it's approving the entire document, which does include components that are outdated and inaccurate. So we want to make sure that it makes absolute clear that it only applies to plans within Evergreen Park, and it is limited to those portions of those plans. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'm just gonna make my last comment. Let me, go ahead.
Just one more time. Okay, I've heard a lot of discussion about environmental impacts. I am here personally to assure that it is definitely at the forefront of our minds, making sure that we keep Evergreen Park as green, if not hopefully greener than when we found it. I am a Maywood Association member. I have been a member of the Nature Conservancy for 20 years. I am an ISA certified arborist, a master gardener, which may or may not apply to all this. I used to be a Wisconsin Conservation Corps kid that was based out of and worked at Maywood Park from 1996 to 98. I was there for Dave Kukuk's cyber hike before computers were a thing. I used to commute by bicycle from Alabama Avenue down Business Drive to go to work at Maywood every morning. And I did that for almost 3 years there. They wanted me to be the crew leader, but I quit so I could go hike the Appalachian Trail instead. Gave up a lucrative government job to go hike. But I rode my bike there, and riding down Business was a horrible experience, but as soon as I got to Evergreen Park, I zipped into that woods, and I rode, and I did ride the trails to Maywood to go to work every morning. And that was the best part of every day's ride to work, and it was much safer riding through the trails to go to work than it was on South Business. So, again, Maywood is not part of our plan that we're asking approval for, but we definitely believe that a strong partnership with Maywood is exactly what I think everybody in this room would want. And yeah, the environment, it's definitely at the forefront. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, like I said, I want to just make a couple quick comments on my own. Like I said, I am a little more cautious about this. I'm a little more concerned about some of the things. I mean, one of the things that I'm concerned about is the fact that we do have a trail there. The trail was there. It was, it was brought by a group, like I said, the Fat Tire community, whatever. They made that trail, and they maintained it. All of a sudden, that group dissolved. Now, who took care of that trail? No one, and it became a burden to the city, which is what it is now. Now, you guys are coming forward and taking care of it, and that's great. But what happens when your group has a problem later on? That's my question. I mean, it's a legitimate question. I mean, I don't, you guys are great, and your guys are there. All of a sudden, one of you moves out of town. I know how nonprofit organizations work. All of a sudden, they can be going gangbusters, and all of a sudden, boom, they're not anymore. And then all of a sudden, who's taking care of the trails? The city of Sheboygan is. So I think that a long-term plan has to be in place for maintaining these trails without it being a burden on the taxpayers. So in other words, some kind of an endowment or something like that, even possibly so that's got to be part of this discussion as we move forward. I think that has to be, part of it, because I said, I do not want this to be a burden on the taxpayers of this city. I like the trail, bringing up the trails and bringing them and maintaining them the way they should be. I mean, I think that needs to happen, because right now, the erosion and things that are happening shouldn't be, and it needs to be addressed. I am a little concerned about some of the skills things being close to the neighborhood. I think that maybe has to be something that we have to look into a different direction possibly. There are, like I said, and like the gentleman said, there are other parks in the city that are underutilized. Maywood is the gem. It gets used a lot. I mean, I'll point out to a park that if you guys are looking for a skills course possibly, look at Moose Park. It really is. It's a big park with a lot, very, very underutilized park. You could do a lot with it. It's open. It's great concept. Just thoughts, But I think I'm like I said, I'm cautious. I will support moving it forward, but again, I would like this, as we move forward, I think we need to make sure that we hold you accountable, to make sure that this is not going to be a burden on this neighborhood. Because I am very concerned about the park, and I want to see this to be taken care of. Thank you. So, if anyone wants to make a motion?
I move to approve. Second.
Oh. Motion's been made and seconded. Alder Rust has a...
I move to amend Resolution 156-24-25 to read, now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council approves the Evergreen Park Trail Improvement Concept Plan for improvements to be made within the boundaries of Evergreen Park.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to amend
Do we
it.
need to rescind the previous?
No, we're amending it.
Okay.
So we're making a motion to amend. Any discussion on that amendment at all? I will say that this is just to clarify that it is within the boundaries of, and not at all encroaching on Maywood. That satisfies that. So, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That part is approved. Now we'll go on to the original motion. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye on that also. That is approved. All right, we will move on to number 7, the reason you guys are all here. Resolution number 164-24-25, a resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order for the purchase and installation of laboratory cabinets, countertops, and related equipment for the upgrade and improvement of the laboratory at the wastewater treatment plant. Jordan.
I'm a little hurt by that, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I don't need to go into a lot of detail on this. Hopefully you were provided a background memo on it. Pretty straightforward purchase. It's just over $50,000, so that's why it does need to go to the city council.
Okay.
Thanks to Bernie Romer, our purchasing agent, and then Liz from the legal office with looking into a state-led contract that we're able to be part of to make it a good deal for the community. So happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions at all?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Okay. Number 8, resolution number 167-24-25, a resolution authorizing execution of a wetland credit agreement and affidavit of credit purchase on behalf of the city regarding the purchase of wetland credits at the Gartman subdivision project. Kevin?
Yes. So this is, as we're developing the Gartman subdivision layout, we've identified a few wetlands that need to be mitigated. We can't avoid them. So this is the process of buying those credits for the mitigation of those wetlands. Sheboygan County has already agreed to let us buy them, and then we just need you guys to give us the blessing to have the agreement signed that we can move forward with this. Going back to the site, there are obviously other wetlands on the site. Many of them are being avoided. There's actually more wetlands south of that graphic that was provided in your packets. Those are also being avoided. These are the 4 that we felt that we could not avoid.
Okay. Questions? Comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, number 9, resolution number 169-24-25, a resolution vacating and discontinuing portions of North Commerce Street in the city of Sheboygan. Kevin?
So this is part of the Commerce Street development with the mainline property. We need to vacate portions of that right away to proceed with the development and the relocation of Commerce Street further to the west. The other part that is related but not fully related is the property to the north of Wisconsin Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
That is unused city road that is of no benefit to the city anymore. Both property owners adjacent have expressed interest in accepting that land for their benefits.
This is the land like behind Bitter Newman?
Behind Bitter Newman.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And part of the Shoreland 400 trail is actually
within the city right away, current city right
Okay.
away. So this would
This cleans
vacate it
things up.
back to the town, or the county.
Okay, this cleans things up. All right, anyone comments? Go ahead.
I have two questions. First is, how is this going to affect that shoreland trail that kind of comes down from the north? Is that going to affect that at all?
Not really. The new roadway design will incorporate the shoreline trail. It's gonna move a little bit with the road,
Okay.
but it will be fully 100% replaced.
Can I have one follow-up?
Sure, go ahead.
The other question is, I know people have been talking about this for a long time. This is a brick road. Once we vacate this, is that going to affect anything with respect to trying to harvest some of those bricks like we've been discussing in the past?
We are going to try and save many of those bricks. What we do with those bricks isn't fully decided yet, but we are going to stockpile them and store them somewhere.
New DPW building.
There we go. There you go.
A kiln.
Okay,
I move to approve.
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is approved. Well, the next meeting date is March 11th, 2025. And we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Might as well, right?